There's a lot of evidence that Hugo Chavez's political communist heir stole the election last year. And now they're on the verge of civil war in Venezuela, where the power has been going out on a daily basis, or where there's food shortages, incredible inflation, 50+% per month in some months. DrudgeReport.com has the headline, Venezuela on the brink, showing the riot police with their shotguns. So that is just some of the news going on as we look what it's like to live under a kleptocratic government. Speaking of kleptocratic government, we're going to be getting into Obama and his latest arrogant statement when we come back from break. Obama says signing up for Obamacare is just part of growing up. And, of course, if you have a business, you didn't build that, and it's part of your responsibility to pay a foreign tax to offshore cartels. And Republicans say Obama violated the Constitution, but little can be done about it. That's what Fox News is reporting. Yeah, no one has violated the Constitution more than Obama in modern history. Abraham Lincoln violated it even more than Obama. But you could argue that was during a civil war. And the Obama-oids, or the Obama-ites, the Obama supporters, they've been billing him as Lincoln from the time he ran for president. Going back about 8 years ago, about a year and a half before he got into office, they were already calling him the new Lincoln. And saying he would have to seize power if people got in his way. Clearly, that would be illegitimate if he did that. If he tries to start some civil war with gun confiscation or something. The Civil War of the 1860s was much more complex and was an ongoing struggle going back to the days of the colonies between unfair taxation between the industrial North and the agrarian farming South. And that was the main issue, was tariffs and trade, not slavery. But in the modern textbooks, it is a fanciful piece of propaganda, just like global warming or other fairy tales. The truth is the evil of slavery was already on its way out when the Civil War started. But that in itself is a diversionary historical factoid. The issue is Obama is becoming a dictator. And even mainline publications point out, like the Washington Times, Obama's executive actions can backfire on Democrats if GOP takes the White House. Well, it's like Ron Paul used to say, if he got elected president, he couldn't just fix everything because he couldn't act as a dictator. I mean, let's say Rand Paul or Ted Cruz got elected. They couldn't piece by piece implement or unimplement, de-implement Obamacare. You just can't do that as the president. Obama is doing that to selectively let his friends off the hook. And that's the very nature, the very blood, the very elixir of corruption and discrimination, is to have a political system where things are selectively enforced, where justice is not blind. And this New World Order system with the NSA and all its surveillance systems is completely aware, hyper-aware of what's going on, and uses all these systems to game the global infrastructure to consolidate total control in their hands. And that's the debate we've got to have. That's the issue that's got to be discussed if we're going to turn this around. So that's just some of what's coming up. There's just so much news today. We are going to get a very interesting national security expert on to talk about real terror threats here in North America. Michael Maloof with WorldNet Daily to talk about these attacks on the power grid, nuclear power plants, you name it. What does he think is really behind that? And then we had Skype problems with the lead singer of Korn last Friday, but he's scheduled to be with us today. Jonathan Davis is coming up as well. Wow, there is so much to go over. Venezuela is teetering on the edge, on the brink of a civil war as the opposition leader is being sought for arrest, and he's calling for a march that he will lead where he plans to be arrested, obviously catapulting himself into cult status to then counter the communist leader of the country who clearly stole the last election after the dear leader Hugo Chavez went up to the big Politburo in the sky. So we're going to be breaking all of that down today. We've got Chase imposes new capital controls on cash deposits. Remember, Chase started doing this for people transferring money out of the country last year, and then a bunch of other banks followed suit, and they tried to basically deny these were capital controls. Well, now you can't, after you, say run a cakewalk or, some type of event to raise money for charity, you can't just put it in an envelope under the account's number and go drop it in the bank. Like I did many times when I was a child, my dad or my mom, after some charity event, would go drop it in the local bank, the $100, $200, whatever they'd raised. Now you've got to come in and show an ID because you might be a money launderer. Meanwhile, they let the illegals get bank accounts without IDs on record. They let the big mega banks launder hundreds of billions of dollars a year conservatively here in the U.S. alone, all on record. But they're going to stop money laundering and everything. No, it's about tracking everything you do and controlling small business. That's why they're trying to shut down the lemonade stands, the bake sales. That's why they're harassing anybody that, tries to have a co-op where you work with a farmer to have cows for you that he takes care of, then he butchers for you so you get your own fresh organic meat, and it turns out being cheaper than the stuff you buy at the store. They don't want that type of economy being rediscovered. They want you to only buy out of their big box stores. So we're going to be breaking that down as well. Oliver Stone has come out over the weekend. Paul Watson wrote an article at Infowars.com. It's on DrudgeReport.com as well. Oliver Stone, Obama's lack of spine is stunning. Leftist filmmaker Oliver Stone slammed President Barack Obama during an event this past week, accusing Obama of selling out as soon as he got into office, exhibiting a stunning lack of spine. He previously called him a snake. And by the way, whenever I say that most of Hollywood is awake, most Hollywood people I talk to know about the New World Order, know about global governance, know about eugenicists, know about the real system, because they're smart people. And they don't want to be liberal and they don't want to be conservative. They just want to be pro-liberty. They're more libertarian. And by the way, Oliver Stone was speaking at a libertarian conference put on by the Future of Freedom Foundation. So there's an example right there. That's why the libertarians are exploding, because there are people on the left and the right who are getting outside those labels and just saying, you know what, I want local control, I want transparency, I don't want offshore corporate directives running my life. And the left is starting to figure out that big corporations have been financing big government the whole time, not as some empowerment mechanism, but as a monopoly mechanism. There's been a pipe bomb discovered in carry-on luggage at Anchorage Airport. TSA agents found what Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport police have described as a pipe bomb in a carry-on luggage of a man ticketed on an oil worker flight to North Slope Sunday, forcing an hour shutdown of the security checkpoint. The man initially claimed the small explosive was a avalanche device, said Jesse Davis, chief of the airport police and fire department. I don't know of any avalanche dangers up there on the North Slope, he said. The FBI is interviewing the man whose name has not yet been released. Police downplayed the incident, saying the public was never in danger and the pipe bomb appeared to lack any triggering device. No motive is yet known. I just know the criminology. Most of the time, if it's not a staged attack, it is people that have a fetish of seeing if they could sneak something through airport security. I've just seen this over and over again. I love firefighters. They're great people on average and are wonderful folks. But the police know, and you can look this up, that most of the time when a pipe bomb is found or if there's a suspicious fire that some volunteer firefighter shows up at first, that in many cases, it's a very small minority, but still that minority is responsible for a lot of the arson and a lot of the pipe bomb activity. And I just saw this over the last 18, 19 years on air, that so many times you'd hear about a firefighter getting busted planting a pipe bomb that was inert and then finding the pipe bomb and defusing it and being a hero. They've caught police bomb squad people doing the same thing. Can you imagine being on a bomb squad and never having any real bombs to dismantle? And millions are spent in every major city per year with all these robots and the rest of it. So a lot of times the very people who you would expect to be out there trying to stop something are the ones behind it. I mean, I don't know what's behind that. I'm just simply simply speculating on that whole situation. And I tell you, it's finally starting to hit mainstream news. I mentioned some of this yesterday, and it really is sad. And it's what the whole MSNBC culture has created. Total racial division for big city balkanization politics. Clarence Thomas came out last week and said when he was going to college in Georgia in the 60s, early 60s, that he ran into a fraction. I believe the quote was 1/10 of the uncomfortable race stuff that he runs into now, and that it's the left always pushing it and promoting it. And the so-called liberal media absolutely viciously attacked him for saying, quote, "My sadness is that we're probably today more race and difference conscious than I was in the 60s when I was at school. To my knowledge, I was the first black kid in Savannah, Georgia to go to a white school. Rarely did the issue of race come up," Thomas said. Now, name a day it doesn't come up. Differences in race, differences in sex, anybody doesn't look at you right, somebody says something, everybody is sensitive. If I had been as sensitive as that in the 1960s, I'd still be in Savannah. And he goes on with more quotes, basically repeating what he said earlier. And they came out and viciously attacked him. Meanwhile, it came out in two different articles yesterday. One of them a disabled vet, another one some guy going home at night, whites being beaten up in Cleveland and many other areas and being told on video, because the gangs shoot the video, beat up that cracker, take his money. And you see the racial attacks in Austin that happen almost every day that I see it in the news every week, so guaranteed it's going on every day. I talk to folks that live downtown, they say it's epidemic. And it's predominantly black males, young black males, going out and beating up hippies that they see are defenseless and weak. And I guess a nation of sheep will be ruled by wolves. But that's what's going on. Now we have a mob of black kids terrorizing Victoria's Secret shoppers. And that's being reported on. I mean, this is really becoming a serious situation, and this was not going on 6 years ago. This was not going on. I mean, this is very rare to have this type of stuff, and it's racially motivated, and it's just like the Klan going out and rolling some black guy coming out of his business at night. And why would racist white groups go target people? Well, because, you know, they're a bad group, so they don't, you know, they don't deserve freedom. Let's go beat them up. It's the same thing with rolling gay people. The term rolling that went on for 50 years in this country. If young fraternity guys or whatever wanted to go steal somebody's wallet and get some money for beer, well, they're good Christian men, so they wouldn't beat up just a regular person and take their money. They would go find two guys coming out of a gay bar and beat them half to death and then take their money, because it was seen as culturally acceptable to do that. Well, it's not culturally acceptable to beat up a white person, a black person, a gay person, a straight person, a old person, a young person, just because, I mean, I see cases where people get beat up for the sports team they're wearing. One time in college, I walked into a bar with a black football hat cap. I can't remember even what the symbol was. And they came over and said, "You can't wear that hat." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Don't ask, we're going to throw you out." And I said, "Okay, I'll take it off." You know, thug bouncers. And I was there with some dates. And I went over later and I said, "Really? I just want to know why." And he went, "Because it's gang related. That's a gang hat." And who knows, it might have been. I just didn't know. This shows how mindless all of this is. And it's completely out of control. But here's the story right here. Black mobs terrorize Victoria's Secret shoppers. This is from WorldNet Daily. It was also in the Associated Press. And it goes on. Some were surprised to hear about the black mob violence on Valentine's Day at Victoria's Secret in Norfolk, Virginia. Not at the violence. The gallery at Military Circle has been the site of dozens of episodes of racial lawlessness over the last 2 years, but of which has gone unreported in the local paper. The surprise is that the mall is still open. Most of its major tenants are gone or leaving. Sears, JCPenney, the nearly DoubleTree also closed. The big draw there is the movie theater with cheap tickets. More than 25% of the space is vacant. Deadmalls.com says the mall is a zombie that is really dead but just acts alive. The latest example of black mob violence came on Valentine's Day as a large group of people fought in Victoria's Secret store. One guy pulled out a gun and shot someone in the leg. In urban lingo, shooting someone in the leg is called leg warming. It is often a warning about comparing with police or selling drugs or competing with them in someone else's territory, or even refusing to give someone a pit bull puppy. And it just goes on from there. And this may be mainly, gang type stuff, but it's really getting bad, and it needs to stop. The sucker punching of white people that's killing some folks. I mean, it's wrong. But MSNBC, they're basically behind it. But still, it's adhered to by Obama worshipers. Any opposition to Obamacare, to anti-gun movements, to globalism, to anything, to debt limits being increased, if you have any opposition to that, you're a racist. And they sit up there and say it with authority. And so the idea is, well, people aren't being friendly to Obama because they're racist. And it becomes this anti-white movement because the Democratic Party has become a purely racialist party based on race baiting, race pimping, race hustling. That's exactly what goes on. And I'm sick of it. Everybody I know is sick of it. And it is meant to take a president who people elected, including a large portion of whites, hoping to bring unity, and they've used it absolutely to create disunity and control, to the point with political correctness now that a student was forced to apologize for emailing a picture of Obama kicking a door because of racism. That's right, it was seen as somehow racist to email a picture of Obama kicking a door. Just, if anything is seen as a bad light, I guess if flies land on Obama and you see it, that means you're racist. And, we laugh at this, but this is mind control. While they discriminate against all of us, I don't care what color you are, where you're from, with these foreign banks with Obamacare. And think about Obamacare, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, depending on your plan, cutting the quality of care, kicking people off their pre-existing plans, kicking people with pre-existing conditions off, setting up death panels, rationing care, everything we said it would do, quite frankly, worse than I thought. I mean, we knew what was in the bill, but it's even worse than we thought. So we were wrong. It's worse than we thought. Ted Cruz was wrong. It's worse than he said. But if they can get away with that, why not do more? I mean, they really are getting away with everything right now. And that's why the whole establishment is going with the Democrats. If the Republicans were getting all this stuff done, I'd be against them as well. But with the Democrats, they have found their wedge, and they are driving it right into our heart. And Ann Coulter's right when she said that he would be impeached if he were not black. And she's absolutely right. That is the only issue, and it's the triumph of political correctness. It's why Hillary Clinton, even though she's so corrupt and has so much baggage and is such a warmonger and such a fraud, she may get elected because, well, I mean, she's a woman. I mean, you're not against women, are you? You've got to elect her, or you're against women. But then Sarah Palin, who is an angel compared to Hillary Clinton, certainly not perfect, but an angel. Oh, she's stupid. She's an idiot. But when the left calls her an idiot and a moron, they're not putting a woman down. They're just putting some lady with a weird accent from Alaska down. I mean, and making it, see, it's a total double standard with these people. Let's go ahead and go to Coulter's comment on this.
He is vetoing legislation by refusing to enforce it. The Constitution demands that the President of the United States take care that the laws be faithfully executed. He has simply taken it upon himself to rewrite Obamacare, to rewrite immigration laws, you indicated with the Dreamers thing, to rewrite drug laws. Now we're not Colorado and Washington. Oh, sure, just legalize drugs that the federal government, that Congress has written and made illegal. This is the bottom of the slippery slope, and I think he would be impeached if he weren't America's first black president.
Now, let's expand on that. Let's go to this clip where Obama tells Charles Barkley signing up for Obamacare is just part of growing up.
We'd like to encourage more young people to sign up, partly because since they're healthier, their premiums are actually generally going to be fairly cheap. They can find good options for less than their cable bill, less than their cell phone bill. And it's just part of growing up, is making sure that you're taking care of your body, taking care of your health. And if you've got a young family, you've got to make sure that your family's protected with health insurance as well. And this allows you to do it.
By the way, he said for everybody it'd be cheaper than your phone bill or cable bill. And, of course, that's not true. It's massively increased it. They admit Obamacare will fail for the big insurance companies that wrote it, with the Republican leadership, you notice, if they can't get all the young, dumb people to sign up for it at what is, in some cases, 5 times what it used to be for young people. So you notice he went, well, in some cases it's going to be lower. They're going to just hammer the young people. They're like, it's my Obamacare, as if you couldn't go out and get insurance before. By the way, the Right Scoop has the report here, and it's true. The GOP establishment wants the IRS to go after the Tea Party. That's why they won't investigate the IRS persecuting people, because the Tea Party is the only real opposition. This is bipartisan screw job. They are involved in all sorts of cultural, genetic, and chemical engineering. We know their ideology is a hyper-eugenicist philosophy of transhumanist exterminism. It can only be described as ultra-Hitlerian, and they are in control to a great extent. And they are trying to extinct human liberty, basic human independence. They have a basic hatred of the individual that is not under their control. And I am simply here on air trying to get people to realize just how serious the stakes are. I have a friend who is an infantryman, or was an infantryman. He's now the head chef at a major steakhouse here in Austin in the Army, and he sent me a text this morning. And I forgot to get back with him. He wanted to call in about the urban warfare training going on in Virginia with the 300-acre mock U.S. city, complete with Baptist churches and subways and handicap parking. And, of course, in Ohio, last week we reported on, local news there reported on, the fact that they're training with the National Guard for scenarios where gun owners, pro-Second Amendment groups, carry out acts of terrorism. And the main branding of terrorism is now on to veterans, gun owners, conservatives, libertarians. You know that. The point is they're not just hiding it in memos now, and then we get the information and it becomes a story. This is being openly flaunted. And he sent me a text this morning saying he'd be happy to come on and discuss it. It's my friend Matt, the same guy that we were able to get on. He was the guy that was able to get that Esquire colonel, that colonel writing for Esquire, talking about we will take your guns from your cold dead hands. He's the guy that got him to respond and got his phone number for us, but the colonel was scared to come on the broadcast. And I wanted to give Matt a chance to call in and comment on that, but I forgot. Guys, I'm going to dial his number and then create an OTS for him and set him up maybe for the next segment. I'm going to just dial his number for you right now. If you just come in and get my phone, I'll just dial this for you. And then you can just call Matt and then set him up. And, get his full info and then create an OTS for him and get him on, because I just remembered that. Here you go. Here you go. Just going to give that to you. Thanks a lot. Fantastic. We'll see if Matt answers. But he was telling me in the text, obviously this is for domestic operations. Well, they admit it's for domestic operations, and it's for their new enemy, people that are basically still Americans and follow American culture. This is a cultural, political takeover. And it's very, very sad that we've gotten to this point, but people just need to be honest with themselves about the position that we're in if we have any chance of ever turning this around. We're in a lot of trouble. And they're putting the capital controls in. They're putting the tracking systems in. They are making the police hyper-neurotic about making us follow all their orders and that we could be killed if we don't, even if they're unlawful orders. They are converting this society into a kleptocracy. And why shouldn't they? Because if you have a centralized authoritarian system, you can take over every industry, every job, every sector, the land, the teaching, the religion, and make the world your world and not have to compete with anybody. And that's my biggest problem with authoritarianism, is that it destroys competition, it exacerbates cronyism, and the people that tend to end up running these systems, and it's certainly the case with our elite, are very predatory and enjoy hurting people. And it's fundamental that folks realize how much danger we're in. It's fundamental across the board. Now, let me just do this, and then I will continue on with some other video clips we're going to be getting into. Let me just start here with this area of the stack. This is out of the Right Scoop. Pat Cadell says the GOP establishment wants the IRS to go after the Tea Party. Pat Cadell said yesterday on Fox News, and the video's up on Infowars.com, that the reason Republican leadership hasn't pushed for a high level of investigation of the IRS for targeting the Tea Party is because they want the IRS to go after the Tea Party. And that's true. And the only way to counter this persecution is to point out that Republican leadership on record for the last 3 years at least has been organizing all the big donors to give money to even Democrats running against Tea Party people, or to give money to establishment Republicans to beat Tea Party people. And they want them shut down because they're part of the very same kleptocratic team. This is a big deal. But to have more and more people telling the truth like this will be the beginning of the end of the establishment, because when the average person figures out that we're all under attack, literally 99.9999999% of us, we did the math a few years ago, of 6,000 superclass in the globalist own estimation, Rothkopf, head of Kissinger Group's own estimation, you average that into 7.5 billion people, 6,000 into 7.5 billion. I forget the exact number, but it was like 0.0000000 something, 23 or something. 13 zeros and then a couple other numbers. I mean, this is ridiculous. And then meanwhile, that ultra elite, Soros and others, are the ones funding the socialist movement of rebellion, like Occupy Wall Street, which means well at many levels, but Wall Street's not the problem. It's the top 4 or 5 banks up there that have insider trading and the whole system's rigged and have created all the derivatives. They're the problem. That's the worst part about this, is they have their cake and eat it too. Because they're able to create monopolies, control the public with low-level socialism, exempt themselves from all of it, wreck everything, and then get more power at each level of the crisis off the crisis they created. And they've all written books bragging about the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. They follow the very same program over and over again because why? Because it works. I've talked to a lot of top people in government, and they've been at the highest levels of global council. And I've been in some of the highest levels myself a few times. And the number one rule is don't fix it if it's not broken. And so they just continue to do the same thing over and over again because it works. And that's how I can see a terror attack like Boston and go, well, wait, let's see if there was a drill. Now, this might have been a real attack. Let's see if, okay, there was a drill of the exact same thing happening at the exact same time. Oh, wait, they're covering up the drill. Oh, wait, they've got military personnel in plain clothes everywhere with black backpacks, clearly meant to confuse the police and the cameras later. That mean they were involved. They were probably called there to say there was a terror threat. Now, if the people they end up patsying have connections to the CIA, then we know it's an inside job. And then it turned out both of them were working for the CIA, the older brother definitely being financed through multiple groups out of Georgetown University. And then the family says that, and now the one brother's pleading not guilty, and then you've got all the stuff that came out of it. I mean, and then the dead bodies all getting fished out of the river, the cover-up. And the media being told, do not look at InfoWars photos. The FBI at press conferences, we're handing out photos, and they're saying, don't look at those. And the media says, yes, sir. People say, how do you know when something's staged? How do I know when I look at a wood pile in the summer out in the woods in, say, East Texas, that there's probably a rattlesnake under it or a copperhead or something like that? Because I've learned enough driving around on a tractor when you've got a bulldozer front on it and you've been tasked with removing piles of debris or bulldozing something, that there's snakes are going to come flying out the bottom of it. I can look at a big pile of stuff and tell my kids around the woods, hey, don't climb around on that. Or I tell my kids, hey, that cardboard box, don't stick your hand in a cardboard box in a field, probably a black widow in there, and you turn it over and there's a black widow hanging up in the top of it. I know where black widows in Texas live because I've seen it about 400 times. I know where brown recluses live, in your closet, under your bed. I know what a brown recluse looks like, too. I know what a copperhead looks like. I know what a water moccasin looks like versus a regular water snake. Just like anybody else could figure out red on yellow kills a fella versus a false coral snake. I mean, it's just simple observation. You learn how they operate. Let's say Obama got caught in an affair with some woman tomorrow. He would then cruise missile some third world country the next day. I mean, they follow an exact program. You go see movies like Wag the Dog, then a year later they follow the exact scenario in Serbia. They're telling you how they scripted the whole deal. And the movie producer goes, well, I'm going to go out. The director says, I'm going to go out and brag that I did all this. They said, sir, you can't do that. He goes, no, I am. So they kill him. And you hear at the end of the movie, he's had a heart attack. And, of course, I knew this a long time ago, but they're now declassifying a lot of it. A lot of these Hollywood producers actually work for the globalists, and they even write up the scripts for what they're going to stage. And then that way, when the operatives have the scripts, if they get caught by the police or a group that's not part of it, it's compartmentalized, oh, it's a script. It's a movie script. That's how they run these operations. That's what they do. And it's so frustrating to see all this going on. And, of course, I said weeks ago here on air that the IRS is not going after the Democrats because they are the establishment party. And they're not going after establishment Republicans because they're part of the establishment. They're only going after the Tea Party, gun owners, gun groups, pro-life groups, people that have any sense of morals, any sense of not doing whatever the power structure says. This is a full-scale political persecution. And I pointed out the Republicans are not going after the IRS because the Republican leadership is just as scared or more so of the Tea Party than the Democrats are. Every time it leaks at a Joe Biden meeting or a Boehner meeting, they are freaking out over the Tea Party. And they've got to bring it down because it's got the light of liberty in its heart. And that's why it's so universally decried. This is what the Fox News guest said. When you have 71% who want an investigation, 64% who believe it's a sign of corruption, including nearly a majority of Democrats, the reason is the establishment Republicans want the IRS to go after the Tea Party. Got it? They want them to go after the Tea Party because the Tea Parties are an outside threat to their power hold. And I'm telling you, the lobbying consulting class of the Republican Party and the Republican leadership who have been attacking the Tea Party and alienating them, they want the IRS to do this. In fact, go ahead and just get that video. That's so truthful. Well, you have it right now. Let's go ahead and play this Veritas.
When you have 71% who want an investigation, 64% who believe that it is a sign of corruption, including nearly a majority of Democrats. The reason is the establishment Republicans want the IRS to go after the Tea Parties. Got it? They want to go after the Tea Parties.
That's right.
Because the Tea Parties are a outside threat to their power hold. And I'm telling you, the lobbying consulting class of the Republican Party and Republican leadership who have been attacking the Tea Parties and alienating them, they want the IRS to do this. And worse, the IRS...
Man, that is so truthful. That is so incredible. And by the way, this is how liberty works. I want to explain something. When you show courage, when I show courage, when somebody like Matt Drudge of DrudgeReport.com shows courage, when WorldNet Daily shows courage, when a local talk show host shows courage, when a Democrat shows courage and speaks out against Obama and the IRS, when anybody stands up and tells the truth, it brings more light into the world. And then that enables other people to tell the truth and to see what's going on and to join you. And then you take over with the Bill of Rights and Constitution. And a great example of this as we go to break is out of Time magazine on Friday, Valentine's Day. Children exposed to more brain-harming chemicals than ever before. A new report finds the number of chemicals contributing to brain disorders in children has doubled since 2006. Doubled. And it goes on to admit the number one thing is fluoride in the water. And they admit Harvard and other studies showing IQ reduction in children that drink fluoridated water. Now, that is absolutely incredible out of Time magazine. And they go on to list that it's causing increased aggressive behaviors, mental illness, fluoride causing, quote, drop in average IQ. It just goes on and on. Now, again, I want to bring this to the mayor that laughs at us when we have like top toxicologists, major professors come in and brain scientists, neurologists, and we go, here are the scientific reports, 1 part per million lowers IQ and causes dental fluorosis and also causes bone degeneration and a 7-fold increase in bone cancer in men. And then he just goes, you know what, I don't have time to hear this, gets up, laughs, and walks off the stage every time. Well, they've got to laugh. It's a con game. Ha, 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 yeah, right. Because they know, folks, this is all their big joke. The political class of Democrats, especially, they know full well the fluoride's there to dumb you down. They're laughing at you because they're not taking it out. Unless you take them out politically. Believe me, I know these Democrats especially. These are evil social engineers, folks. They know what they're doing. They enjoy what they're doing. They think it's funny. But even Time magazine now, there's so much pressure and so much awakening, has to admit this. And it's going to get worse for the establishment because here's the deal. The 99.9999999% of us don't want to be slaves. And you want to make it about 1%? How about we make it about you, the 6,000 globalists, and what you're up to? Because the truth is getting out, and more people are going to start telling the truth from all different angles. But that's not why he joins us in this segment and the next. Matt sent me a text this morning saying he was listening to the show yesterday where I was talking about the article that's up on Infowars.com that Drudge carried on Friday, breaking U.S. Army trains for martial law in U.S. And we have all the links in the story where they admit it's, quote, for the Tea Party, gun owners, you name it. And then they admit other drills in other states where, quote, the scenario is gun owners attack the city because their guns have been banned. So they're getting ready to ban guns, start a civil war. That's undoubted. This is treason. This should be the top story. I'm trying to force it out there so that we can have a national debate about it. But he was a heavy machine gunner in the Army for many years before he got out and went to chef school. So I wanted to get Matt Pearson, who did a lot of mount training. He offered to come on and just give his take on this story and the difference. Because people are like, well, you need to train for urban warfare. Yeah, they have facilities for that. This is for America to acclimate. Go ahead, Matt. Tell us your take on this.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, you know, the Army has mount sites like this, dozens of them all over the place, and they've got them pretty much every different scenario out there. I know that I did one in Fort Sherman, Panama. It was a jungle warfare training facility, and I guess probably the one that's the most well-known in the States is at Fort Polk, Louisiana. It's called the Shugart Gordon Complex, and it's a big fake-built city where we actually did drills that involved an opposing force that was the soldiers that were stationed at Fort Polk, basically played the enemy. And then we actually had some of their soldiers that would walk around like civilians to kind of create a real-time scenario where you would have to, watch your fire to make sure you weren't taking out innocents. And, they range in from complexity to anything from just walls being built up with windows and doors so you can kind of learn to maneuver in and out to actual standing buildings. But the one that they've built, this one in Virginia, I mean, this thing looks like a city. It's full out buildings. Looks like it's got running water and churches and a football stadium and everything else. So this one's built up like nothing I've ever seen. But I've kind of been reading up about it, and they're saying that it's been in plans for quite some time. And I guess this thing right here looks like they're going to be doing some pretty serious stuff in it. But at the same time, the Army is always trained in situations like this. But the one that really kind of sticks out is this one that just happened where they've talked about going after Second Amendment supporters. This is the one that's kind of...
Yeah, you're talking about Ohio story last week. Sure, that's the main drill now. We just report it when it's in the news. They're training, Matt, the main enemy is now Christians, conservatives, gun owners. Look at that colonel that wrote for Esquire saying, they're coming after us.
Right. Yeah, I've never, the one thing I can honestly say is I've never in my life heard, when I was in, had ever heard of anybody training to fight against Americans or singling out a special group like Second Amendment enthusiasts. I mean, it's like you said, it's treason. That's not training, that's treason.
Well, that's what we call the piece, training for treason. It's so outrageous that they're really doing it. Did you see the thing out of Fort Hood a few months ago where they said that anybody in the Tea Party would be court-martialed?
No, I didn't see that, but that's nonsense. I mean, no, I haven't read anything about that.
Well, what's your bottom line on this? I mean, what do you think's going on?
Well, I mean, I definitely think it's something to be watched, but what really concerns me is, number one, being a veteran, we were labeled as future domestic terrorists by Nancy Pelosi a while back, and that probably pissed me off more than anything I've ever heard. I mean, I can't understand why anybody would want to call any of the people that volunteer.
Tell you what, stay there, Matt. Back in 1 minute. I want you to finish that point. We'll put it up on screen. Last year, after we first broke it, Fox News reported that evangelicals were labeled as terrorists, and that anybody that was part of the Tea Party was basically a terrorist. Matt was just telling me that he talked to one of his buddies at Fort Hood, and he was saying they got a memo saying, don't visit the Drudge Report. Matt, repeat what you just told me. We were bringing up, because you did a lot of mountain training your years as a heavy machine gunner in the Army, but Matt, Matt Pearson, you were getting into the fact that Nancy Pelosi and Big Sis and Napolitano listing returning veterans as the #1 terror threat. I mean, this is the branding of us as the new enemy. And in these Army videos where they talk about the new Asymmetrical Warfare Center, this new city, they say, well, we're preparing for what we think the next threat is. So then they're getting ready for the next war. West Point has training manuals now where they say the next war will be with the Tea Party. I mean, this is crazy, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, to get back on the point I was talking about it seems to me that they're really trying to paint veterans and soldiers as bad guys to maybe kind of sway the public's opinion on them. I mean, I think that's pretty crappy to call somebody that volunteers to serve for their country, and that's what we have. We have a volunteer military. We don't have a draft going on right now. We don't have a situation like in other countries where you're pretty much you're required to serve 2 years. I know there's a lot of countries in South America, and like even when I was in Korea, those guys, they have to serve 2 years. The day you graduate from high school, you go into the military, whether you like it or not. It's not like that here. We all volunteer to go serve our country, and we do that because we're proud and we're American, and it's in our family and it's in our bloodlines. I mean, my dad is a Vietnam vet. There was no question what I was going to do when I got out of high school. I knew where I was going to go. So to do that, and then to have some dingbat call you a terrorist, man, that pulls on the heartstrings a little bit. And then you have all these little stories coming out about how, so-and-so veterans have PTSD. They need to have their guns taken away. And then on top of that, now you have all these stories breaking about how Americans are, soldiers are training to fight Americans. It seems to me like what they're basically trying to do is paint a picture saying, hey, the troops aren't the good guys anymore. And that's not the truth at all whatsoever.
Oh, I agree with you. It's a very sophisticated psyop. It's like the federal training to make cops do bad things, and then it demonizes the police, which drives them into the hands of the feds. They want to use the troops while they're in and then have them demonized once they're out. And they're going to autonomous vehicles now. They're getting rid of the humans the next 10 years. And so that's what this is all about, is phasing out the men, period. And it shows that they'd like to stage some events and try to use the military against the American people. I just don't see that ever working, Matt.
No, that's never going to work. That's not going to work. But it's like you said, they are trying to phase out people, get a robotic military-style army because, like I said, the army is made up of your, people that are your brothers, your mom, your dad, your cousins, your friends.
Hey, briefly, tell me about your buddy at Fort Hood talking about they got a memo about don't visit certain websites.
Yeah, there was a memo that came out a while back. It was like you were saying about the court-martialing for being a Tea Party contributor. But, yeah, it was the same way. Don't be caught on the Drudge Report's website. Don't be caught on the Alex Jones show, stuff like that. That they're kind of cracking down on stuff like that. But the thing about that is when you sign your name and you join the military, you do kind of give up some of your rights. That's just the way it goes.
No, I understand, but it's like saying don't read the New York Times. Right, I mean, it's not like they're saying don't read North Korean propaganda. I mean, of course, they've been doing that to me for over a decade. All that did was get the military to be our biggest audience early on.
Exactly.
Because you tell them, don't go visit this website. I mean, what's going to happen?
Exactly. And the thing is, I don't see our military ever attacking the citizenry of America. That's just not. That's not fathomable. They're not going to do that. That's what they signed to protect the Constitution, not the president or some jacked up agenda. But if I had to guess, and I'm looking at the pictures of this new mount site in Virginia. It's not even a mount site; it's a city.
If you had to guess, real quick.
What's that? If
you had to guess, real quick, what do you think?
I personally believe that we're going to find ourselves in a deep, serious problem.
Hold on. All right, we've got a really informed guest who's got a new book out, Michael Maloof of WorldNetDaily.com, WND.com. He's going to be joining us here in just a moment, the next 45 minutes. Then I'll continue with news. And we have the lead singer of Korn joining us via video Skype. He's been putting out videos critical of the Lord and Savior Obama. And as Jamie Foxx calls him, that's a big deal to have a major rock band doing that because you're not supposed to criticize the dear leader if you're in entertainment especially, or you get persecuted. So we look forward to talking to him. Finishing up with my friend Matt Pearson, who did a lot of mount training and was involved in that in the Army. He was giving us his take on this Virginia center that has churches, you name it, $100 million to build it. And it's got, D.C. signs in it. It's clearly for urban warfare in the U.S. It's this new mission for, quote, domestic terrorists, which they say are the Tea Party. But he had another wrinkle to it in closing. Matt, tell us.
Well, I was just saying that there's a bunch of different reasons why they could have it. The number one reason being where you're going to train is where you want to be the most realistic for what's at hand. And I think that really the most serious problem I see that we could have on our soil right now is the fact that we don't have any border security along the Mexican border, and we have a problem with drug cartels, and I have a feeling that that's probably going to end up surfacing pretty soon. I'm nothing but a glorified fry cook, but if I can see the problem with it, then the government probably knows about it too. And I have a feeling, with everything that's going on with legalizing pot and that's been on cartels' business, toes, pretty soon we're going to start having issues with it. I got a buddy that's a APD drug task force. He says they're stumbling on different cartel stash houses every day trying to do low-level marijuana busts. So I'm hoping that that's what it's for, because like I said, I don't ever see the military taking up arms against its own people. In my lifetime, I don't see that happening.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt. We'll talk to you more soon.
Sounds good, man. Have a good one.
You too. There goes Matt Pearson giving us his take on that. Unfortunately, if the political class is able to, they will have the military as a domestic police force. They're getting rid of posse comitatus. Their main mission, we broke this 6 years ago, it's now mainstream news, is to, quote, deal with the #1 terror threat, which the establishment openly states is returning veterans, gun owners, Christians, conservatives, the list goes on. And so this is going on. And it's a real crisis. And yes, the phony drug war has certainly contributed to all of this destabilization as well. I mean, here's the Fox News article. Does the Army consider Christians' Tea Party a terror threat? And in the memos it said, do not be part of the Tea Party or you might get court-martialed. Don't be an evangelical. This is outrageous. What you'd expect from a Soviet military command. And this is the facts. Now, joining us for the most of the hour is Michael Maloof, senior staff writer at WorldNet Daily, specializing in international political and economic analysis, a former senior security advisor analyst for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Maloof was almost 30 years of federal service, 23 years with the U.S. Department of Defense. And I'm not going to go over his entire bio, but it's very interesting. Director of Technology Security Operations, involved in halting the diversion of military critical technologies to countries of national security and proliferation concerns, those involved in sponsoring terrorism. He's also advanced firearms training and combat tracking training in U.S. Marines and has a background in extensive protection. And following 2001 attacks, Maloof has also been focusing more and more on terrorism. But he's got a new book out right now, A Nation Forsaken, EMP, The Escalating Threat of an American Catastrophe, published by WorldNet Daily Books, available on Amazon.com and bookstores everywhere. And this EMP situation is a real deal, because you could have even a country that doesn't have a high-tech weapon system could try to get one of these over here, or you could have the sun mimic what an atomic or nuclear EMP could do. I mean, he's the expert, and we'll get Mr. Maloof to break it all down. My issue is that there's, from what I've seen in Congress, they finally have had some hearings on this, but there doesn't seem to be the focus there should be. Instead, we see an obsession with gun owners in all this new military training in the news. Supposedly, the military is being taught that gun owners and Tea Partiers are the new domestic threat, not the Iranians, not the Mexican drug cartels, but the Tea Partiers. So before we get into your book and EMP, I wanted to, just in this segment, the time we've got left, Mr. Maloof, I wanted to get your take on the open demonization of the Tea Party, returning veterans, the attempt to shift the whole military-industrial complex in domestically, I guess, into Obama's domestic security force he talks so much about. You dovetail that with the purge of the military that's undoubtedly going on, that all these top generals have spoken to you and others about at WorldNetDaily.com. I'm trying to get the big picture here from your perspective. What do you think's going on here? Because we used to get documents 5-6 years ago where the military was training to take on the Tea Party, and people couldn't even believe they were real. Now it's just all over news like it's a good thing. Why? The new threat isn't Al-Qaeda, it's the veteran next door. He's going to bomb the police department any time now. Now, what do you think's going on?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I just got off the phone with a with an on-duty officer whose name will remain anonymous, and he's very concerned about this. And what in our discussion, it really encapsulated what is going on. He said any dissent by within the ranks today is tantamount to you being purged yourself, or your performance is downrated, and you're out. You're out of the service. The problem that is occurring is by making a more compliant military, and purposely doing this in order to make us more acceptable on the world scene and not appearing to be the badasses on the scene in the world. It has made us become more of less able to carry out national security responsibilities. And as a consequence, we're cutting back tremendously in our military today. And as a result, it is prompting countries such as China and Russia and other wannabes, superpower wannabes, to fill that power vacuum around the world. And what we're seeing is that as a result, countries such as Japan, Korea, countries that we have alliances with and to protect are saying, well, we can no longer trust the United States to protect us, and we're going to go our own way. And as a result, them going their own way with Japan and Korea, for example, with the industrial capability to go nuclear and to build up their own military independent of our protection, it creates a more dangerous environment worldwide as a result. And so this is going to be the consequence of what we're seeing. They can no longer rely upon us and the protections we've been giving them, and which has actually helped us in terms of our national security, and it's creating for a more unstable world as a result.
And so what you're saying is people are afraid to even ask questions or say anything, a bunch of robots, and then basically morale falls apart, and then everybody just basically sits in a corner and just salutes the dear leader.
Well, as they go up in the political, as they go up in the officer corps, approaching colonel, general, and what have you, it becomes much more political. And as a result, they're just going to stand up and salute, and that's just going to and that's how they're going to be able to succeed. It becomes much more politicized. The officer corps has become much more politicized because they want to be able to please the dear leader and be able to advance as a consequence. But what does it create for us? It creates a hollow fighting force as a consequence, along with other issues that have been brought into the...
Let me throw a curveball at you, then we're going to come back and get into your book and the EMP, the big issue. What do you make of the peace deals with Iran? And I'm all for not having a war with Iran and Syria. But then Iran has their top generals say we have sleeper cells in the U.S. And I went and checked it. He actually said that. And then they send ships over. Why would they engage in provocations when they started getting what they wanted?
Because they've read what I just said. They read that we're weak, we're not going to do anything, just like the United States didn't do anything towards Syria. And Obama has made the point that we're going to negotiate. As a consequence, the leadership in Tehran have read those tea leaves, and they see that we're not going to do anything as a consequence. And so they're going to fill that vacuum. Plus, you got to keep in mind, this is all coming out on the, the 35th anniversary of the Iranian Revolution was in 1979. So there's a lot of bravado that is going on right now as well. But you're right. We've seen expressions of this in the past few weeks, in which they're threatening, and even though they're trying to get us to convince us that we need to lessen sanctions and to open up to them, and again, it's just for posturing purposes, and they know the United States isn't going to do anything about it.
Don't you think at some level it could be a suckering Iran in? I mean, is Iran really stupid enough to think it's going to help them to put ships off our coast?
Well, they'll go ahead and put the ships off the coast, but again, it's for show force.
I know it's a complete joke. I mean, obviously it's a joke. It just seems it's just crazy. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to do it. They'll probably use countries in Latin America for basing, but again, it's a show. It's a show, and they know the United States isn't going to do anything about it.
All right, Michael Maloof, stay there. We're going to come back and get into your new book, which I just got. I haven't read it yet. I can't wait to read it because the more I research, this EMP threat is the real deal. And we're going to look at different angles and how serious it could be and ways to protect against EMP. Straight ahead, one of the senior writers at WorldNet Daily worked at the U.S. Senate and Department of Defense. Maloof was a special correspondent for the Detroit News, a reporter for the specialized newsletter U.S. News and World Report, and Washington correspondent for the Union Leader in Manchester, New Hampshire. He is the author of the new book, A Nation Forsaken, EMP, the Escalating Threat of an American Catastrophe, from WorldNet Daily Books. This is a short segment, Michael, long segment coming up, but you've got the floor. Let's break down the EMP threat, and I know most people understand what an EMP is, but maybe start at the beginning and break down what your book covers.
Well, my book is called A Nation Forsaken because the federal government has failed to undertake on a national priority basis the action to harden our facilities against either a natural or a man-made electromagnetic pulse. And an electromagnetic pulse is a supercharged form of energy, from X-rays to gamma rays, and to other forms of radio technologies that can actually knock out our national grid system, and also by doing so affect our other critical infrastructures on which our modern society relies. I mean, and I'm talking about life-saving infrastructures that we have come to know and expect in this day and age, such as our food delivery, our telecommunications, our banking system. They're all predicated on the use of the electrical grid, and the electrical grid is very vulnerable today. There are 3 grids in the United States: Eastern, Western, and the Texas grid. And all of them are very vulnerable. The Eastern grid handles 70% of the U.S. population. So if a natural phenomenon from a solar flare, for example, were to hit, it would cause some very widespread damage that could actually have an impact for years. For example, NASA has suggested that it could cost upwards of $2 trillion in the first year if we had a direct hit from a solar flare. And we're in that cycle right now where we can expect these solar flares to hit. In addition, it would also affect about 90% of the U.S. population, and we're talking about the urban population. And when I say affect, that means death and starvation. Also, it would affect a minimum of 350 of our large transformers, and we only have about 1,500 of them, and they are almost impossible to replace on a normal basis. And we don't even make them here. We have to get them from overseas, and so all of our critical infrastructures would be affected. There would be a cascading effect. Even if a portion of the grid is knocked out, it will have a widespread effect across the nation in terms of our food delivery, our water delivery, just transportation, our automated control systems, everything that we just take for granted that runs automatically, from our pumping stations to our banking system. That's all automated, but all those would be knocked out. And that's what we would be facing. And this is what, now the man-made would be from a high-altitude nuclear explosion. And nations with a missile and a nuclear device and a will to wreak havoc can do that. And
you could also do it, I've read, with a hot air balloon, right?
Theoretically, yeah, you could put, and even an orbiting satellite, an orbiting satellite could be a bomb. And this is what we've now seen the North Koreans actually working on rather assiduously is orbiting, and which means that they were successful in orbiting a satellite, and that satellite could actually be a nuclear device. And we know that they've been working on a smaller nuclear device, which was poo-pooed by our military, but in fact, it's actually a super EMP weapon that they're working on, according to my sources, which means it will emit greater gamma rays, which will have a far greater impact upon our electrical grid and all of our electronic devices that are not protected.
Now,
I just got off the phone with an Air Force guy, and he says, "Well, we're protected to a point, but from a nuclear explosion, he doubts very seriously that our electronics, which have been protected somewhat from let's say a flare or a lightning strike, would be able to would protect us from a nuclear explosion, which is the most intense that you can get."
Now, and you're the expert on this, but there were congressional hearings, I know, in the last few years, and I've seen numbers of $2 billion, $10 billion. How much would it cost to fix this? And then I want to expand into what it would look like if we got hit by a strong natural solar flare, or what would happen if there was a hydrogen bomb went off in the upper atmosphere. And then you've got the sun involved, and we know going back in the last 100 years, there have been other EMP events that have melted telegraph wires, you name it. But we haven't had a big event since we became fully industrialized the last 60, 70 years. I know the Pentagon did some tests with EMP themselves back in the 60s with high-altitude nuclear testing. But undoubtedly, the science is settled, to use an Al Gore-type phrase. The point is they know that EMP is a serious issue, and I don't really see any time or energy being spent on it. So recap for us, I'm going from memory here, Michael. They've had congressional hearings the last few years. I know that. They debate how much money it would cost to harden things. I see some news reports saying we're due for a big EMP naturally to occur from the sun. I mean, what's the bottom line on this? And then what would it look like if we did see a lot of the power knocked out in the U.S.? I've seen some research papers saying that we may never get the power back on for a long period of time and that we would see societal level collapse.
Well, everything you just cited is correct. It has settled. The scientists have concluded that EMP is a very viable threat, whether natural or man-made, and it can affect our very vulnerable electrical grid and electronic components. Everything that we rely upon and take for granted today in our highly industrialized society. While it's made us the greatest industrial power in the world, it's also our Achilles heel, and the bad guys know that. And so you're going to probably see more instances of localized efforts by lone wolves that might want to undertake this. We certainly saw it in San Jose last year. I reported on it back in July of 2013, but it didn't resonate. I mean, I was talking to former CIA Director James Woolsey, and he made mention of this, and nobody picked up on it. And here you had something not exotic at all, in which people were firing AK-47s into transformers to cause the coolants to knock down. If you hit strategic transformers and you knock out the coolants that keep those transformers humming, you're going to have blackouts, and it could take weeks and months to happen. But if you have a large-scale high-altitude nuclear explosion or even a massive solar flare from a direct hit from the sun, it could take years to recover, and certainly many months. And it's only the latest estimates I've seen on what it would take to do this is anywhere from maybe no more than $20 billion at most.
$20 billion to harden these facilities. Do you have any information on who they think might be behind the attack in California on those transformers, or who would the shootout with the police by that nuclear power plant that just happened a few weeks ago? I mean, there is more and more weird stuff going on.
Yeah, well, it had to be. It's homegrown terrorism, whether it's a defined group or whether it was, well, in this case, there were a group of people. They found enough casing to suggest that there was more than one person involved in this. It could be a trial run. Now, this happened a day after, as I recall, it happened a day after the Boston Marathon bombing. And there are a lot of Chechens in that area. So is there a connection? The FBI has supposedly been looking at these kinds of things. Was it a test run for something larger? It's quite conceivable. The fact that they're using AK-47s is indicative of someone who had to be familiar with that firearm and knows its capabilities. And also, it could have been something as simple as an inside job, simply because the transformers they knew precisely where the lines were, the fiber optic lines leading into the substation in San Jose, and they knew precisely where the 17 other transformers that were knocked out were located and knew precisely where to hit them. So there's something to that cannot be overlooked, but you're not hearing anything from our law enforcement authorities who are supposed to be investigating this thing. I think simply because they don't want to scare anybody. They don't. If it was a foreign activity, could it have been a cartel? I don't know.
Sure, and they don't want any foreign. I was about to say cartels is who I would think, because that's a real group that's actually kills police all over Mexico, and now they've been having some setbacks. So you've seen them try to sabotage the police station in L.A. That's a whole nother issue. Do you expect that drug war, that hot war in Mexico, to really pour across our border?
Oh, it already has, it easily could, because the drug cartels have been able to get into some of our largest metropolitan areas. I live in Reston, Virginia, and we have MS-13 right here, right across the right across the way in Herndon, Virginia, and this is right outside the nation's capital. So they're
unbelievable.
They're in the big cities for sure, and certainly down along the border areas. And I think there was an episode recently where there was a major firefight using 50 caliber machine guns, hand grenades, and our border patrol people had to basically shut down the border because out of concern that it was going to be overflowing into it was in Arizona, that it was going to be overflowing into Arizona itself. So there was an alert by the local sheriff down there. I did a story on it, come to think about it. And it was
Michael, let me shift gears and we'll get back into EMPs. In the book, A Nation Forsaken, available at worldnetdaily.com, WND.com. Looking at this, just a large geopolitical overview. As you know, one of the deputy secretaries of defense over in England, or Ministry of Defense, came out a few weeks ago and said there doesn't even seem to be a strategy with Obama. And I see all these ambassadors they're appointing who brag, I don't speak the language, I don't know how any of this works, and I don't care. I mean, what scares me is I'm just a radio talk show host doing this 19 years, but when I see these politicians on C-SPAN, Obama people, they know less than I do about most of the topics they're talking about, and I'm not some know-it-all. It seems like a very lazy elite that we've got in charge right now, and I mean the Republican Party as well, trying to commit suicide with the open border situation. I mean, are they trying to do us in like the old Roman Empire? But, I mean, how would you describe the political climate? Because it just seems like it's really like rotten fruit or something.
Well, I don't think foreign policy is this administration's forte. And so they're looking more domestically. And what we're doing internationally is reacting more to events rather than having any long-term strategy. And this is actually hurting us. And even when you look at the appointments that are being made at our ambassadorship, we at least it is something that we need to look more closely to make sure they have at least visited the country and they know something about the country. The civil service and the ambassadorships from other countries, like the United Kingdom, what have you, are people who have vast background and experience in what they're going to be covering, and we just don't do that. We have a foreign service that is in a number of other countries, but what's happened is that the Obama administration has increased the percentage of representation with the political appointees, principally his donors, into these high-level positions, and they don't know anything about what they're doing. It's just a step forward for them. There's no commitment, they don't have this burning desire to learn something about the country or to better U.S. foreign policy, and there's no strategy. And I think that this is why you're seeing and hearing complaints from overseas that the United States just no longer has a strategy, and that our standing as a world power is diminishing, and the Obama administration doesn't seem to be doing anything to try to reverse that.
And that segues right back into EMP. It's like if you care about things and you want to learn about the world, you're a weirdo. But if you want to run around and have, Jay-Z or whatever to the White House and have a party, oh, that's so cool. It really is frightening to think about so much of the political class in this country. I think are smoking their own political propaganda.
Well, I think you're right. I think the problem is that it's projecting an image of the United States as weak, and as a consequence, other powers are seeing that, and they're going to take advantage of it, and they are, and they're taking full advantage. The instant you create that power vacuum, political, military, or economic power vacuum, others are going to swoop right in, and we're seeing that now with the Chinese, just in asserting itself in Asia, with a lot of our traditional allies, to the point where Japan and Korea no longer look upon the United States as part of as provided them that protective umbrella that they were promised years ago, and so now they're going their own way. They're going to be militarizing more. Certainly, Japan is, and they have the industrial capability to go nuclear. Japan can do it within 6 months.
I was about to say, we all know the Japanese have been doing secret stuff. And the word is they've already got the weapons. Now they just have to put them in the missiles. And Japan came out today. I've got the article and said they're looking at going ahead and going nuclear, or at least allowing the U.S. to station weapons there. That's how insecure they are right now.
Oh, they're very insecure. Plus, you have a new mentality that's developing in the form of the current prime minister there, Abe, in which he believes more in militarization, more of Japan asserting itself. And what does this cause? It's created more of a problem between China and Japanese relations as a consequence. And of course, the rivalry and the hatred between those two countries goes back, to the beginning of the 20th century, if not earlier. And since Japan occupied China.
That's right.
Quite a number of years.
Well, Michael Maloof,
forgotten that.
No, it's true. And then they had wars before that, and the Divine Wind turned back those invasions. A Nation Forsaken, available at WND.com. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future. I mean, in closing, am I correct in saying there is more interest in EMP now, and there is some movement in Congress, or is that wrong?
No, there is some movement. We've established an EMP coalition in which we're talking more about it, where there is more discussion about it. Certainly the San Jose episode helped bring EMP issues to the fore, but there still needs to be a lot more done in Congress, and certainly they're more concerned about cyber security than they are about the effects of an EMP. If you can guard against an EMP, you can guard against cyber attack. And they're just not looking at it in that vein at this point. They're not there yet. And I doubt that we're going to get legislation passed in the Senate. We might be able to get something passed in the House, but that's problematic.
All right, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very interesting interview, as always. Smart guy. Here's what's happening. We've got the lead singer of Korn coming up. He was going to be on Friday, but we can never get a Skype working. Did we get a Skype tested today? Is it working today? Or in the process? It's kind of fun, though. Always with media people or entertainment folks, it's always fun to get the connections going. But I look forward to that. Love their new music video. Jonathan Davis, we want to reach out to all the great Korn fans out there. So that's scheduled for like 20, 25 minutes at the start of the next hour. So that's coming up. Now, I have a mass ton of news I want to cover. We're going to do that after the break in that segment, the next little segment, because it's not just U.S. ambassadors that need no experience. FAA, no experience necessary for air traffic controllers. That's an actual quote. That's not an Onion headline. That is a WorldNet Daily headline directly from the FAA.gov website. You cannot make this type of stuff up. And then new technology allows for TV ads to target specific individuals and families. Told you that was coming. We're going to break down what that really means, at least my perspective on it. Also, dollar hits 6 weeks low, weighed down by soft data. And there is a story up on Infowars.com right now. And we've gone out and done similar reports to this. I'm going to send my reporters back out to do this because I want to point out folks don't know their basic rights and liberties, kind of jaywalking type reports. But video, students fail to name any of the Bill of Rights. This is Mark Dice doing that. Shame on you. American youth has no clue about their own freedoms. Yeah, and we need to rebuke these youth as well when they don't know. I mean, it's important to name it and shame it, highlighting how woefully out of touch the U.S. freedoms and rights are with youth. America is students at USC San Diego failed to name any of the Bill of Rights when questioned by activist Mark Dice. Can you name some of the Bill of Rights? Dice asked a male student. Dude, I think I need to take a quiz. Clearly desperate to get away because he did not know any of them. I'm quizzing you right now. We're gonna play that after the front man for Korn leaves us. But it's up on Infowars.com. It's up on PrisonPlanet.com right now, ladies and gentlemen. Briefly, we've got some new items at MadeIn1776.com. Where you'll find the George Washington belt buckles, which are limited number, made right here in America. You'll find the Made in 1776 golf shirt. You'll find the new Molon Labe Come and Take It, which I think is the most strikingly handsome and powerful shirt out there, with the two M4s crossed, with the helmet there in the middle, the Spartan helmet. It says it all. There's also an Infowars.com version of the Molon lobby. And we have the new 50 caliber cartridge and bullet, black with 1776 worldwide stamped on it, bottle breacher for opening bottles. Great way to have conversations at parties, you name it. Makes a fabulous gift. And it's made right here in the USA. The bullets that they took the powder out of were from the U.S. It was made in the U.S., and it's the company's owned by an active duty Navy SEAL. And then his buddies are inactive Navy SEALs. They've got some other veterans working. It's all veterans at that company that we had make a whole bunch of these for us, and we're going to be sold out soon. It's selling so fast. In fact, we sold out, I predicted to be our best seller ever, of in just 3 days of the new Molon Labe Spartan shirt. But didn't matter. It's a week turnaround, made in America. They're making them right now. So if you order, it's not really back ordered. You'll still get it in a couple weeks. Get your order in now. The made in 1776, made in America. And we've also got a woman's version that's going to be here next week as well, trim fit for women. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, that is madein1776.com, or you can link through to InfoWarsStore.com. It's just madein1776.com leads you directly into the Made in America products area there on the site with all the apparel and so much more. And your purchases make the broadcast possible. And we're almost sold out of Super Male Vitality. More comes in a few weeks. You want to get that 15% off right now. You've heard the rave reviews. It just does amazing things to block the estrogen mimickers that are in our bodies. The Survival Shield, proprietary nascent iodine, the Fluoride Shield. It's all available at InfoWarsStore.com. Or, again, it'll take you right to the subsection, InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free, 888-253-3139 for the clothing, the supplements, everything. Controller guiding hundreds of thousands of flights from airport to airport across the country. The Federal Aviation Administration says the position offers an exciting, challenging, and rewarding aviation career. Qualifications are to be a U.S. citizen, be able to start training no later than your 31st birthday, pass medical, security, and pre-employment tests, and have either a bachelor's degree or 3 years progressive work experience, and to be able to speak English clearly enough to be understood over communications equipment, but not necessarily any experience. In fact, the agency specifically addresses that concern, stating members of the general public can apply for FAA air traffic controller specialist positions. There's specific job vacancies announced by the USA Jobs that do not require previous air traffic control experience. Isn't that just special? Here's another one. New technology allows for TV ads to target specific individuals' families. And then it says that by tracking your previous viewing and what you do, because the TVs are just computers, as I told you a decade ago, they watch what you watch and then track you and sell that data. I think I said that 10 years ago. I said that like in 1997, so excuse me, 14, 15, 16, 17 years ago. It's incredible how long this has been going on. But now it's so ubiquitous in all the systems that they just throw it in everyone's face. John Kerry has come out and said climate change, world's most fearsome weapon of mass destruction. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of pounds, they're saying, of CO2 traveling all over the world to promote all of this garbage, which I say is great. I mean, what's wrong with carbon dioxide that plants breathe compared to all the other serious issues that are transpiring? In fact, here's just from his one trip. He spends hundreds of thousands a year, but his one trip, Kerry generates 12 tons of CO2 on trip, discussing climate change. Isn't that just special? But again, it's just all completely and totally propaganda. When Obama says to Africans, you can't have cars, you can't have air conditioning for the earth, it doesn't mean Obama's going to get rid of his or all of his red carpets. Kickstarter hacked, user data stolen. A crowdfunding site says hackers broke into its system and made off of data. Apparently credit card numbers escaped the attack. Yep, that's the nature of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. And the bigger the outfit, the bigger a chance you have of being attacked, because you are the main group. You are where all the money is. They asked Bonnie and Clyde, why do you rob banks? And they said that's because that's where the money is. I don't know how they would not know that. And they're coming out in the news, in the New York Times, admitting how hospitals surveil everything you do. I mean, it is a big brother society, a revolution by political elites, basically, against people across the board. They're just setting the precedent to totally and completely take over. Continuing here, dollar hits 6-week low, weighed down by soft data. The dollar slipped to its lowest level since the turn of the year against a basket of major currencies on Monday, as soft U.S. economic data stood in contrast to better figures on the Eurozone and China. Yeah, it's only a question of if but when the dollar starts tanking, but every other major currency is going to tank as well. More news straight up. Stay with us. We're going to play the rest of that at the bottom of the hour after our guest leaves us. But that's exactly what real reporters all over the United States need to do. In fact, I'm going to take the exact questions Mark just did, and I'm going to go out, and I'm going to ask those exact questions to people in Austin, Texas, and then I'm going to tell them, shame on you, when they don't know. And I'm going to go out and show people who don't know that the Earth orbits the sun, as 1 in 4 Americans don't know. And I'm going to tell them, shame on you, because it's time to shame these people. They go, shame on you, you don't like Obamacare. Shame on you, you don't want to turn your guns in. It's all about their moral authority. And you watch MSNBC or CNN, it's all about how smart liberals are and how they've got more education on average. Well, let me just tell you something. I'm not saying college is all bad, but it is a boondoggle for most people and overpriced on record. It's a business. Almost every billionaire worldwide didn't go to college. I think out of all the billionaires in the U.S., 2 finished college. So being a billionaire, generally, college does preclude you from that. Because usually somebody who's going to end up being worth $1 billion is already too busy being successful by the time they're 18, 19, 20 to finish college. Or too passionate about what they're doing to literally go in and be taught. I mean, I sort of take an RTF at college, and it was literally 5-year-old level. I already knew more about it than the professor, who obviously couldn't get a job in RTF, so they had a professor job. And I'm sure there's some exceptions, and I'm not knocking people that teach that. I just, for me, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable to see this type of stuff. Did Willie Nelson need to go to college to learn how to get into music? No, Willie Nelson, when he was like 7 years old, his grandparents bought him out of a catalog a guitar. Is that Trigger or is that a newer guitar? I know Trigger's an old guitar, but I ask him. The point is that, you know, they bought him one out of a catalog, and he was into it and learned how to play. So, but I know all the people going to college to learn music, or, you know, going to college to learn film. And the only way that's good is to go to an elite film school so that you learn the contacts. So somebody in the film school is going to end up being successful. They then give you a job. All the big new films that are successful are just being shot in HD high def with interesting scripts, you know, for $100,000 and becoming incredibly successful. There's either big mega blockbusters now, or there's little tiny things that end up being successful. There's none of the middle ground in the whole fake entertainment deal. And if you're taking RTF at a college, you're taking 10-year-old knowledge, and you might as well, you know, go live in a trash can or something. You know, better chance of learning how to make a film or be successful doing that. All right, folks, we'll be right back on the other side with our special guest. Stay with us. Time shifts, and I've been a big fan of Korn for a long time. Most people that like rock and roll or heavy metal obviously love Korn, because all their music across the board I tend to find to be excellent. So many bands only have a few songs you like. It's very few, in my view, like Metallica or Megadeth, where just, you know, every one of them are excellent. And Korn is right up there with them. But what I really admire about Korn now, I know they've always been somewhat political, promoting liberty, is that this is a very bold, almost documentary, this particular music video, spike in my veins, because it is, if you're a radio listener, you got to go watch the video online. It is exposing, you know, Justin Bieber and the whole pop psychology, and Miley Cyrus, and just all of it, and how it all ties in to the overall police state that's expanding, with all the images that are taking place on the screen. And if we can get, you know, top platinum groups like Korn and so many others who've had the courage to speak out against the system to go public, then it won't be as dangerous to do. And we can cause a total paradigm shift, which is what their new album's called, the paradigm shift, where it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's not about all this garbage. It's about a one-party system we've got absolutely destroying our future. Now, enough of me giving my interpretation, because I've never talked to him before. except for saying hi to him on Skype. Jonathan Davis is, of course, plays guitar as well, but he joins us. He's the lead singer and the front man for Korn. Korn.com. Facebook is just Korn. Twitter, it's twitter.com/Korn. YouTube, Korn channel, where you can see the video in full that we were just playing a clip of. And they join us, or he joins us right now. So, Jonathan, I really want to salute you. I know you've always had courage, but it's bold to have videos that have the dear leader on them, our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh?
Well, I mean, yeah, I know folks that are big entertainment, and they're all scared. They don't like Bush either, but, I mean, they don't like what Obama's doing, but they're scared to ever even criticize him in any way. Tell us about the video. Tell us why you made it and what's going on.
I just think, well, for a long time I've been into what's going on with our country. I'm not necessarily considered myself a political person, but over the years I've seen what's been going on, and it's called to me that it's time to do something about what's going on with our country and the system and everything that's going on. It seems really sad that everybody's so asleep and oblivious to the fact that the country is using media to, I don't know, capture people's attention or take away from the fact that, what's going on with our country. It really freaked me out when the whole Miley Cyrus thing was going on, and when that went down, Barack passed that new law that he can imprison anyone he wants. He doesn't have to charge them. He can keep them there as long as he wants. It's just basically all our liberties are being taken away one by one. And finally, I feel like it's time. I got to do something and let these, try and get as many people as we can to wake up and see what's really going on.
Well, I think you just said it. And as Mark Twain first said, in the beginning, a patriot is a scarce man, hated, feared, and scorned. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. And again, I watched your music video. It exposes the entire system. It covers it all. And this threatens the power structure, because if others begin to follow suit, that's going to be it for their whole system. I mean, as you said, it's a paradigm shift. Tell us about the paradigm shift.
I mean, I think it's time for us as normal people to come up and fight against the powers that be. I think this country was founded and based in the beginning and set up for us to have revolutions when we don't like our government and what our government has done and taken over and taken away all our privacy and, all the things going on with the drones and everything. I mean, everything. It's a scary time, and I think that someone's got to do it in our position. Someone's got to, speak out to the younger audience and let them know what's going on and try to wake up and take back their privacy.
Well, when we think about the raping of our privacy, I mean, it's beyond 1984.
Oh, it is, dude. They're everywhere. I mean, look at it. Big Brother is alive and well. I mean, you're looking at me on my camera phone. I mean, it wasn't about putting up cameras. I think we already got the cameras everywhere. You can't tell me that there's no back doors for everybody to see. For the powers that be can see what we're doing and watch what we're doing at all times. And I'm not comfortable with that. And I think it needs to go. They're getting ready they're building that huge-ass building. The NSA is for all the spying, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And I mean, it's scary times, brother.
That's right, and it's totally illegal as well, but they're just doing it. And I noticed in your music video, you show a bunch of the pop people up front, and that was my interpretation, but you just said it, that they're using this to project and distract us with all this empty fluff while our basic freedoms are being drained away.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Nobody cares what's going on behind the closed doors when Obama makes all these crazy laws that take away more and more of our privacy and make him more of a dictator. Something's got to happen, man. It's got to stop.
Well, you just said it. Wow. Obama becoming a dictator, and then when he leaves, the Republicans will have dictatorial power. Why do you think Obama is becoming a dictator? Give us your breakdown on that.
I mean, I said it before. I think he's an Illuminati puppet.
Yeah.
I think that, it just doesn't make sense, the whole thing. I mean, the guy comes from out of nowhere. He gets made president. All this stuff starts happening. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. I mean, and to really top it off, I'm not really a political person. I don't know much about it. I'm just worried about my privacy and my children's privacy. And this being America, we're supposed to be landed free, and it's becoming a police state. It's just crazy.
Well, no army can stop an idea whose time has come, and you talk about a paradigm shift. I'm seeing a paradigm shift. But it's so exciting to see you and your tour and your music and your band promoting basic freedom. That's a breath of fresh air. Tell us about your tour.
Yeah, we're going. I leave today to go to New Zealand, Australia, and Singapore. So I just go all over the world and do what we do, and that's just rocking out, having fun, having kids come out and have a good time. And if they get something, if they take something away from that and see what's going on in the world, I mean, hopefully that'll be in our world just enough just to get things going, because I really want something to happen. This is ridiculous.
Well, what you're doing as a humble man saying, I'm not really a political person, it's the political people that are in the controlled paradigm. It's the average person who's just been successful with their own art, their own ideas, their own businesses, who has the real right to speak and say, I don't want you stealing my data. I don't want you violating my Bill of Rights. I don't want you violating my Constitution. And it's going to be not just people like yourself or myself. It's going to be the common person just saying no and removing their consent verbally that will bring this system down. And I believe we are getting close to the paradigm shift. Why did you call the new album Paradigm Shift? Is it your attempt to help create the paradigm shift?
You know, well, for us, we called it that because there was a paradigm shift going on within our band. And we had our old guitar player come back. He'd been gone for 10 years, and everything started to shift for us. But, I mean, I can see where you could see that, that paradigm shift's going on with us right now politically. But for us, that's the reason why we called it that. Was a shift within our band.
What's the response of your huge fan base around the world, the tens of millions of Korn addicts out there? What has their response been to you calling out the NSA, calling out Obama, calling out the Republicans, calling out the entire criminal regime?
I mean, overall, the fans have been saying, giving us, kudos to you for having the balls to make a video like that. The response has been overwhelming. It's been really, really good, and it really feels good to see that kids are starting to understand this and starting to get it.
Well, for those that don't know, the reason I really admire what you're doing is I happen to know a lot of big rock and roll people and other folks. And, Dave Mustaine's had the courage to go on air. People like Billy Corgan have had the courage to go on air and criticize the system. And I happen to know, that all those people end up getting some type of repercussion. And I know so many other big people that are scared to even say anything, even mild. And the fact that it's called courage by your fans, which it is courage in this world of tyranny, as George Orwell said, in a world of universal deceit, telling the truth, a revolutionary act, it shows how far down the rabbit hole of tyranny we are, that it is ballsy for you to have the will in your band to put out that music video. Yeah, it is. I guess it is. I mean, for us, it was just, we were having fun. It's like, let's really throw all this out there and see what happens, because every time I've ever said anything against Obama or any kind of done anything political like that, I end up Huffington Post, all this stuff. It's so funny. I have clips I've saved where, like, I called Obama a puppet, or when I wanted a certain political or a presidential candidate, all this stuff. It's funny how you just say something like that and it gets so much coverage. So hopefully this is going to help. Well, it certainly is. Talking about the rest of the band, who contributed? I mean, you all made the music, you all contributed, but who directed the video? Because it's so well done.
I don't even know the director's name. I'm sorry.
No, it was collaborative then. The whole group put it together.
Yeah, collaborative. We had this idea, and it was really interesting. It was the first time I ever did a video with big robot cameras, and I kept tweeting that day. I remember when cameras were run by human beings, and it's pretty funny how our world's turning into just being observed with robots. And that was one of the reasons why we had those. It was pretty cool.
Sure. Well, a lot of times we end up finishing a video and we go, now, who directed this? And nobody knows because it's all collaborative. But that's when you put something really good out, is when everybody just gets in there and it just suddenly comes out. But, man, I'm telling you, you're leading the revolution here. And I'm sure you know that if we can get people in entertainment, people in music, that's why the system tries to keep you guys under a thumb, to break out, it's over for the establishment. What do you see in the future, either outside of Illuminati control or if we don't defeat them?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's pretty insane that the world internationally in the world, there's a lot of places that are rising up having revolutions because they don't like their government. I just think it's time for us to follow suit.
Well, exactly. If we had a Republican in there doing this, I'd want him impeached. But because he supposedly has the moral high ground and he's a liberal, any criticism of him is basically like blasphemy or something. I'm sorry, Obama's not my God, and I shouldn't have to worship him.
No, that's everyone's right to do whatever they want. That's why we have this country.
Now, Jonathan Davis, you know I can talk a lot, but I want to give you in the 5-6 minutes we have left a chance to basically take over the airwaves and just anything you want to talk about, anything in the world going on. After this interview's over, I know you're going to wish you would have said something, so say it now.
I just want us to become the country we used to be. I remember when I was a kid how amazing our country was. And as I've grown up and watched things happen, I just want it to be like it used to be. And like I said, I'm not really a political person. I don't want to come off like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I really want to leave a world for my kids to, have the liberties and the privacy that this country was founded on. So that being said, that's just my goal. And that's it. That's really it.
So you're standing up, and you know what's happening's not good.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. I mean, that's why I say, why isn't there a bigger revolution in this country? They're illegally spying on everything we do. Why not live in glass houses? I mean, if you don't have privacy, you don't have freedom, you're a slave. It's that simple.
It's really that simple. Nobody wants the government knowing what they're doing. The government, it's none of their business. It's crazy that this is happening.
Well, what would you do if you caught some neighbor climbing your fence, looking in your window at night? Even if you're a nice guy, and I'm a nice guy, I would probably walk out and punch him in the face. But then government is staring in our windows, staring into our bedrooms, everything we do. And it's like, well, they're the government. No. It's even worse for them to do it historically.
Yeah, it's worse. I mean, I'm hearing stories that they're just trying to take our guns now. There's all kinds of scary stuff going on. It's sad, bro. We need to get it together.
Korn.com. I haven't downloaded the entire record yet because I've been watching them on your YouTube site. But I got to say, out of all your records, this one is one of the best. How do you guys keep it so original? Because talking to other big music talents, they say that's the biggest thing. It's easy to do 1 record, 2 records, 3 really hard, 4 super hard. I mean, is that true? It gets harder each time?
I think it gets harder each time if you don't experiment. For us, we've always tried to be innovators. We've always tried to do something different from the last record. And that's what keeps it fun for us. So I think it's one of the longevity of the band. We've been around so long because we're constantly evolving and being artists. I mean, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. So I feel blessed just to still be here after 20 years doing this.
Well, we got to salute the rest of your band because, I mean, I'm sure they all had to agree to be part of this evil sacrilege, this blasphemy of criticizing the dear leader. So, wow, they sound like thought criminals like you.
We all are, right? The world needs us, Alex.
They certainly do. Wow. Well, when are you going to be touring back in the United States?
I believe I'll be doing some shows when I get back in April. I believe that's when we're going to be doing some more shows, and then we got some summer tours, stuff like that, but we're always constantly touring. We don't stop.
All right, well, listen, Jonathan Davis, I really appreciate you spending so much time with us. Korn.com. Folks can find you at Facebook.com/Korn, Twitter.com/Korn. Give us just closing thoughts on the place humanity is right now. I think you've already said it, though. Now's the time to stand up, speak out, or be slaves.
Exactly. You can't, change has to come, and it's going to be from the people. And definitely this system we got right now is not working, so it's time to change it.
All right, well, I hope when you get back to the U.S. sometime that we can get a chance to interview you in studio or send a camera over to meet the rest of the crew. Thank you so much, Jonathan Davis.
Thank you, Alex. You're amazing, man.
No, you guys are. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, brother.
Wow. Folks, again, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know the courage it takes when you're in entertainment. The whole system comes after you, and I can't get into the stories because they're confidential. But it's well known how they try to keep people on a short leash. And I got a text message from a huge rock star just last week when I was talking about Hollywood and how they're waking up. And he said, you know, you do not know how true that is, Alex. It's really happening. So just keep talking about what's happening in Hollywood and the music industry. Because listen, if the system loses Hollywood and loses the music people, it's over. I happen to know for a fact in country music, they try to tell people be establishment now and promote Obama. You've been seeing big country singers promote gun control now suddenly. And they point blank tell them, you're going to get a bigger record deal. We're going to put you on at the Super Bowl. We're going to promote you if you promote Obama. And again, Republicans have done bad stuff too. It's just never has it been like this, where there's literal blacklist if you don't play ball. And, I mean, they don't play you on the radio, folks, if you criticize Obama mildly. And Korn is a group played on the radio all the time. And they're willing to put out a record, an album, dead center attacking Obama for being a globalist front man and wanting our guns. I mean, that's because the culture only cares about music and entertainment. Most people aren't focused on news. The real battle is in music and entertainment, and I'd say about 20% of Hollywood are hardcore leftists who really believe what they're doing. Another 20, 30% are establishment leftists that do it just like it's part of being in the club, like being part of the Nazi party, but you're not really a Nazi. That happened in Germany. Most Nazis were not Nazis. They just didn't want to get put in a labor camp. And then you've got maybe 20, 30% that are libertarian, and then maybe 10, 15% that are what you call mainline conservative. But Hollywood goes after libertarians. Libertarianism is really, out of all the groups, the biggest one group in L.A. and Austin. I mean, I know, folks. I've been to all the A-list parties. For whatever reason, I was able to get into all that. And, I mean, I didn't do it a lot. But used to, I got invited out to Los Angeles, you know, every month to be on TV shows and stuff. Well, I just say no to those now. Just because, you know, you fly out there, you spend 3 days, they interview you twice, you end up being on some TV show for 2 minutes about, you know, Masons or the New World Order or whatever, or Bohemian Grove, or you've seen all the shows I've been on. I don't even watch those shows I'm on now. And while I was there, you know, you go to one Hollywood party, you meet all these people, hey, come to this party, and then you get into this group of people, and you get into that group of people. I mean, there isn't a lot of people I haven't met or run into. And they're like, oh, you're Alex Jones, I love your work. Yeah, you know, we're not allowed to tell people what we really think or they come after us, but you know, we don't like the Republicans or the Democrats. We're like libertarians, and we know there's stuff in the water, and we know it's all rigged, and, you know, we just want a future. They're just like us, folks. You're like, man, you want to go public. No way. You go public, you'll never work again, just like James Woods said. I mean, when James Woods went public against Obama, he was destroying his career. His career was hotter than ever. And so, you know, it's like Korn. I mean, they're still top of their game, making tens of millions of dollars a year on the radio, and they're just like, you know what, we're done. We're going after Obama. We're going after the New World Order. We're going after Miley Cyrus. We're going after Justin Bieber. We're going after the whole facade. That's what it takes to have a future. Nut job. It has an anti-Agenda 21 message. I went and saw a Lego movie, extremely libertarian. I'm not going to give it away. My son's going to do a review soon. I think he's going to come in one day this week, trying to get that all scheduled right now. I mean, it's just so many movies I go and see now actually have good messages. And that's because I happen to know some of the people involved. They are trying to sneak through what they can. And as long as it's not too overt, the old ruling elite of Hollywood won't shut them down. Plus, pro-liberty type ideas sell more tickets. Doing the right thing actually pays, historically. That's what evil people don't get, or those that sell out to evil. Evil people tend to get it. They want to run it. But when I say 30, 35% of how Hollywood is hardcore libertarian or conspiracy theorist is another way to say it, my point is that's the growing political group. If you're a Republican, they go after you and destroy you. Everybody's sick of being a Democrat and being under that thumb and the Democratic royalty. Michael Moore and Matt Damon and, you know, just all of those people, George Clooney and Sumner Redstone and just all of it. People are sick of it. And it's that close to collapsing. Oh, that's very conservative numbers. I've gone to Hollywood parties where everyone was aware of the New World Order and very upset about what's going on. And most of them were listeners and talked my ear off about all these different, quote, conspiracies and questioning the system. Then I've been to others where half the people are awake. It's amazing. But when you get in these really high-level meetings, they're just point blank about it. Only liberal politics is allowed here. That's what we push. And it is an entrance fee to the door. And so Americans need to know that. That's why when somebody like Korn comes on, or Dave Mustaine comes on, or Billy Corrigan comes on, or my friend Jimmy Vaughn years ago popping on the show, he's just too shy to come on, whoever, that you have to know that there is a political price to pay. Well, the price is way too big to pay if we don't turn this around and stop it. And when the first few people start going public, it will cause a domino effect. But it's time for all these celebrities who are out there who can really affect change to show the world that Hollywood isn't a bunch of kleptocratic authoritarians that call themselves liberals. It's time for you to show the world who you really are. They're not going to be able to shut down everybody. I guarantee if you had 35, 40, 50% of Hollywood come out and say, I'm a libertarian, I'm a conspiracy theorist, I'm a constitutionalist, I'm a conservative, they couldn't get rid of half the people there. And that whole system's already beginning to collapse right now anyways. That's another reason more of the truth is able to come out now. So, again, it's another sign that the establishment is not all-powerful and is not invincible. So we salute Jonathan Davis and Korn for their contribution overall to that, and everyone else who wants to stand up against corruption and evil. We need police officers, military people, school teachers, lawyers, bureaucrats, farmers, people that work in a machine shop. I don't care who you are. Secretaries, all of you are important. The little things you do every day will change the world. That's why they want you to just go home, watch TV, live in their false paradigm, only repeat what they put out, distract you from the whole universe of reality around you with a little television box. I'm here on television on a self-made, people-built platform that the system's trying to shut down right now. They want us all lined up in little Obamanoid uniforms, and then when they bring out that puppet and bring in some new puppet, and we all line up and get into the next fad that is just a new tyrant dressed up in a different uniform. And I know Obama's a puppet, but he's the puppet who is the front man and the cult of personality around which the power structure has organized this entire system. We have a desperately dumbed-down population. Desperately. Desperately. 1 in 4, new study out last week we covered, doesn't know that the Earth orbits the sun. Most people can't list any of the Bill of Rights on the street. Most people can't list the 3 branches of government. That's a man on the street. Go out and get people to list the 3 branches of government. And if they can do it, we'll give them $10. And we'll give them $100 if they can list the legislative, executive, and judicial, if they can say what each one of them's basic function is. That means judicial is the courts, executive is the presidency, legislative is the Congress. Maybe go out and give people $100 if they can tell you what the 10th and 9th Amendment are. This is basically the same thing. The 9th Amendment's a super 10th Amendment. Probably the most important of the 9th Amendment is like the Declaration of Independence recast. Speaking of people being desperately dumbed down, here's Mark Dice's latest video that's up on Infowars.com. Students fail to name any of the Bill of Rights. Shame on you, American youth. Has no clue about their own freedoms. And I'll guarantee you these people are all super trendy Democrats. Look, it's just true. Democrats are the dumbest, most pack-oriented, mindless people I've ever run into. That doesn't mean they're all idiots. The higher level ones are predators feeding on people. But, man, these young people, man, they don't know how to change a tire. They don't know where electricity comes from. They don't know. They basically would walk in a grocery store and just think meat appears in plastic containers. I mean, they are literally like gerbils that have had their eyes poked out and their ears poked out and their legs chopped off. I mean, they're just flopping around. They can't even, I mean, it is unspeakable how helpless and dumb they are and how the system is doing everything it can to exacerbate. I mean, you watch this video, and I've told Mark on and off air, it's time to say, shame on you, you're scum, and he's finally doing it. And that's good. And I got great reporters, but I gave him a little pep talk today. I said, look, I want you to go out just like we went out and did a piece on go and abort people's children after they're born. That didn't get picked up in the news, but then a bunch of other universities and people did it and it became a national story. Our job is to get other people to emulate our system of success. Just like Mark emulated me 8-9 years ago, we now emulate him. Success breeds success. It's the same deal. We don't territorialize taking down the New World Order. We all work together because we have no future if we don't do that. And I want to see people all over the country go out and do your own man on the street and put it on the internet to shame these ignorant ignoramuses. I want to see people go to city council in Austin this week with Time Magazine. That's like their God. Hold up Time Magazine. The article's free online. 5 chemicals brain-damaging children. There's the headline. Children exposed to more brain-harming chemicals than ever before. Goes on to say fluorides reducing IQs. And go in there and say, listen, you're on notice. You know this is brain-damaging people. Take it out and then sue them. Go get a lawyer to sue the city. They don't have immunity from forced medication and secret experimentation. In fact, I'm going to sue the city of Austin. I'm so busy, and I don't like to make lawsuit threats. But you know what? You know what? That's it. I'm going to get a lawyer and I'm going to sue him. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. And I think I'm going to sue Lee Leffingwell. I'll tell you this. Take it on advisement. I'm going to send Lee Leffingwell a letter. I got to get the right lawyer first. My lawyer's so good, he won't even take all my cases. He'll get me the lawyer for the case. I need an environmental law or civil rights lawyer. Because I've been to those city council meetings where that guy laughs at everybody. We have scientists there. I've just had enough of it, man. Oh, man, I tell you. You're going to poison me, you bastard, and then you're going to laugh about it, you sack of, you know what? You know, I don't like to use non-King's English here on air, but, man, sometimes you just want to say it. Only the word counts. I mean, you are a sack of crud. You and the political establishment. You make me want to throw up. And, by the way, I want all these people on notice in every city so that when we take this government back and all the documents come out about their program of eugenics, which they've written books on it, you people are going to be held accountable. They really hate us so much, they sit back and join the bone cancer and the brain damage and all the rest of it. I take it real personal. We should do Man on the Street right now about, did you know Time Magazine even admitted it lowers IQ? Why is it still in the water? Why aren't you doing something about it? We need to challenge the public to go out and take action against this. We need to get aggressive in the defense of liberty. You do, out there watching. I don't want to have this fight and just do it halfway. Let's go all the way, folks.
Got some of the previous videos.
That's right. It's at Mark Dice on YouTube. But Mark, just incredible job. I mean, that is what should be being done in every city. Folks, just take those questions, go out with a camera, stick it in people's faces, show what idiots they are. Go to the PTA, show how they don't know. Shame all these morons. They walk over to me and go, hey, what do you think about the Seahawks? And I'm just like, I don't really have time to follow sports. And they'll be like, oh, you're not cool. I'm like, no, I'm not very cool. I'm dealing with, satellite uplinks and 50 crew members and reading legislation and running operations and studying geopolitics and quantum mechanics. And I'm really concerned about those mega X flares right now. And I'm also, I have my own personal life. I like to go out and have a little bit of fun here and there. And I like foreign films and stuff like that. You know, I just really don't like the dead, rotting, disgusting, filthy, fake Hollywood culture that I've been force-fed with, and I'm tired of it. And I don't want any part of it. How does that sound? How does that sound? We are the intellectual elite. We are the Renaissance. We are the liberals. Not Barack Obama. Not Barack Obama. Not Hillary Clinton. Not John Boehner. They have stolen every term. They have turned it all around, and I'm sick of it. These people are flaming criminal con men using social engineering against everybody, and I, quite frankly, have had enough of it. And I look at those helpless, dumb trendies, and it makes me sick. In fact, it makes me want to go out and confront them. It makes me want to go out and say, shame on you. You and your children are going to be overrun. You know, I talked yesterday on the Sunday show about how government lies and says it's the law to take vaccines every year. And that went up on YouTube. I was looking at it this morning. There were a whole bunch of comments in that video. It wasn't even about vaccines in the headline. Going, this guy's a liar. You will be arrested for not taking vaccines. They literally believe the lie over what I told them. They could go find out in 10 seconds I'm telling them the truth. But they can't believe the government and media would lie like that, so it must be true. No, you have a criminal mass racketeering conspiracy. You can also call toll-free 866-229-0927, 866-229-0927, mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. They have a lot of other great preparedness items there as well. By the way, speaking of preparedness items, if you go to InfoWarsStore.com, we have the InfoWars Seed Center. And we carry MyPatriotSupply.com's particular seed vault that we think is one of the best out there. So wherever you get it, get it. But we have, I don't know, it's got to be like 8 different major companies now up there. The lowest prices on the Survival Seed Vault, the Arc Vault. We've got fruit tree stuff, herbs, you know, all the basic staples. We've got like 8 different companies, full spectrum dominance, the lowest prices that people will let us advertise. A lot of these folks, you have to sign an agreement not to go below their lowest price. At the InfoWarsStore.com Seed Center. And now is the time to commit to putting in that garden in your backyard or at your farm or ranch. And it's so much fun for the kids. And to even plant out in rural areas where nobody's at. The system hates natural food growing. These seeds will produce more seeds over and over again. And it's getting back to being self-sufficient that's so important. So InfoWarsStore.com. You can also go to InfoWarsStore.com in the Made in 1776 section and get the new Molon Labe shirts that did sell out in 3 days. But never fear, there is more. Come and take it from my cold, dead hand coming in next week. This is the best-looking Molon Labe shirt out there, bar none. And we have the Navy SEAL-made bottle-breaching 50 caliber rounds up there as well, made by an active-duty Navy SEAL and his team that are not active-duty. So those are very, very popular in the Made in 1776.com area of InfoWarsStore.com, or as always, call 888-253-3139. Here's what we were talking some about in the last hour with Maloof of WorldNet Daily. Japan indicates U.S. could bring nukes into its territory in case of emergency. And that just shows how everything that's going on is just escalating crises out in the Pacific. North Korea's Kim warned he might face charges over atrocities. Reuters reports the UN is investigating him. Investigating him? I mean, he mass murders people all the time. But at least that's a step in the right direction. Blackmailed Congress, stalls legislation outlawing NSA surveillance. Kurt Nimmo's story, also up on Infowars.com. I mentioned this, but it's a big deal. Chase imposes new capital controls on cash deposits. That's confirming what we reported on a month ago, now confirmed. GOP flocks to bill curbing Obama's power. 43 Republicans have co-sponsored the resolution that Obama's State of the Union address where he threatened to enact policies if Congress didn't. And they're moving forward with a resolution to stop the overreaching presidency, or the stop measure. That's not enough. Begin impeachment now. But that is something in the right direction. And that ties into this article up on Infowars.com, just breaking in the last 10 minutes by our very own Kit Daniels. On President's Day, DNC vice chair encourages Obama to act as a dictator. Vice Chair's statement represents the very danger that George Washington warned us about. The Vice Chairperson of the Democratic National Committee encouraged El Presidente Obama to move forward and particularly act as dictator today while Congress is in recess. In her tweet this morning, Donna Brazile undoubtedly suggested the president use his pen and phone to sign executive orders which unconstitutionally bypass Congress. At Barack Obama, enjoy President's Day. Hashtag tyranny. With Congress on recess, this is Action Day. Let's move America forward with Congress in recess. Hey, they're in recess. Power grab. Become a dictator. You know, put people in re-education camps. The weathermen. We're a bunch of scum. Red carpets, private jets. Africa, you can't have electricity. I mean, it's just incredible.